Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Scouting for Growth podcast. I'm your host, Sabine VdL, and today we have a guest who is not just organizing to scale, she's scaling the art of organization. Joining us is the formidable Staci Gray, the founder and CEO of Organize to Scale. Staci's journey is nothing short of inspirational, actually. Imagine graduating high school at 16, diving headfirst into the entrepreneurial world, and then buying your first property at 18. But the plot thickens when a mother was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. Staci didn't just step up, she leaped into action. Yes, taking the reins of her family businesses, she transformed overwhelming challenges into streamlined successes. In just 36 months, Staci helped launch 36 syndication businesses that collectively raised over $300 million. Yes, you heard that right. 36 businesses in 36 months. Talk about the triple thread of efficiency, expertise, and enthusiasm. But what truly sets Staci apart is a passion for people. She is on a mission to help entrepreneurs detach their identity from their businesses, redesigning themselves and finding true freedom and impact beyond the balance sheets. And you all know I believe in authenticity, but authentic identity meaning how to align who we are, our differentiators, our strengths, to the work we do every day. She's like the business world's version of a life coach meets efficiency expert with a dash of wit and a whole lot of wisdom. Today, we'll dive into Staci's unique approach to scaling businesses through people and processes. We'll explore how she empowers leaders to build strong teams, streamline operations, and prepare for successful exits, all without losing their minds on their personal identities. So whether you're an entrepreneur feeling trapped by your own creation, a leader seeking that elusive work-life harmony, or just someone who loves a good success story sprinkled with invaluable insights, this episode is for you. Grab your favorite cup of inspiration and let's embark on this transformative journey with Staci Gray. Welcome to the show, Staci. We are thrilled to having you today. Hi, Staci. Thank you so much for joining me on Scouting for Growth.
Excited to be here.
So, Staci, to just get started, please give us a little bit of a background about you and what got you to shape the business you are leading today.
It started actually when I graduated from high school. My father is a successful entrepreneur, and he asked me to come work with him and help him build his businesses. And I started doing that when I was 16 years old. I was just answering phones, taking registrations. And about 9 months into that, I said, I don't want to answer phones anymore. Can I do something else? And he said, sure. And he handed me a copy of E-Myth by Michael Gerber, which is all about documenting processes and procedures, putting SOPs in place, creating checklists, creating duplicatable systems for operations. So I started organizing the day-to-day operations for the registration coordinator position that I was in. And then he said, well, now you have to hire and train your replacement. And I was like, oh, I don't know how to lead, manage, and hold people accountable. I don't know what I'm doing. So I started reading Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, management books, play to your strengths, all of the things that you do to lead, manage, and hold people accountable. And so that's how I got started in organizing to scale businesses, was when I was 16 years old. And then fast forward, I started doing this for not just our family businesses, but also other entrepreneurs who wanted to organize and scale their business operations, but they were more visionary leaders and they were struggling to sit in both the visionary seat and the tactical seat. So I would come alongside them and help them organize their day-to-day operations, hire and train people to put in place to pull the day-to-day levers, and then they got freed up to be speakers and deal makers and negotiators and all of that. And so that's what was my launch pad to what I do today, which is organizing to scale businesses.
So interesting statement you made. I'm going to pick on some of the words you actually used, which are working with visionaries. I am a visionary, actually, Staci, and I know I am, in the sense that I actually can actually see the trends which are going to come and affect us. And I actually grew up as management consultant, so I had to put processes in people's businesses as well. So while I'm visioning, I do process as well. But where I resonate with what you are saying is we have different paths and we have different strengths. And so visionaries usually can actually see the future, and actually the way they actually exploit their strength is by finding people, colleagues, external resources to actually help them structure things as well. So tell us a little bit more as to how you help visionary leaders to find the way they find the experts to help them build the bolts to design process, to scale and do more. Because actually, I think that will resonate with a lot of entrepreneurs and big company builders, right? Scale ups, startups who are visionaries. A lot of those people are visionaries at the end of the day. And they do not always understand how to put people together with processes and technology to build the best companies in this world.
That's such a great question. And I think what you just touched on too is really important is knowing yourself. So knowing whether you're a visionary or you're an integrator or more operationally minded, I think getting that level of clarity is critical, because one of the roles, like the visionary role, is very externally focused. It's thinking 5 moves ahead, it's caring about the customers, it's interested in advancement and expansion. Whereas the integrator role or the COO role is internally focused. It's focused on the team, it's focused on fulfillment, it's focused on operations. And when you try to sit in both seats at the same time, you're basically fragmenting yourself. So it's important to choose if you're going to be a visionary, or choose if you're going to be more internal and focus on operations. So if I'm talking to somebody who is a visionary and they're clear that they are a visionary, then they need to get really, really clear on what they love to do, that they're great at, and what is going to drive revenue. Because the visionary's job is to focus on expansion and driving revenue and getting into relationships with people, strategic partnerships, strategic alliances, to create a product or service that the market wants, and also create recognition, brand awareness, visibility around that. So they have to get really clear on what platforms, how they want to do that, what that looks like, because then they can fully lean into that. Then they have to go recruit the opposite of that. They need to recruit someone who buys into their vision, who believes in them, who can help prop them up, send them out. And then the visionary gets to go do that, throw it over the fence to the integrator, and the integrator then takes it and turns it into reality. So I kind of like to think of it like a puzzle box. The visionary can see the front of the puzzle box, but when you dump out the puzzle and all the pieces are everywhere, usually the visionary is like, I'm out. That's not for me. But the integrator is like, yes, like this is how the corners are. This is how we're going to fill it in. This is what it's going to look like. And so they need somebody like that. And the best integrators are what I call co-visionaries. They can actually envision with you, and then also take that whole vision and scope and sequence it into tactics. I like to think of it as an hourglass. You can actually see behind me, I have an hourglass next to that candle. And if you take it and you flip it over, the visionary has all the sand. There are all the ideas, all everything. And the integrator's job is to, when you flip it over, take the sand and figure out what needs to go through, what goes through first, and how can we transition it into something practical in reality in the day-to-day, but not do it in a way that's overwhelming or drowning the tactical team. So that's kind of how a visionary can go research and align themselves with somebody that is good for them. And then the other part of that is just to stay in your lane. Sometimes they try to get in each other's lanes and then it fragments operations too.
Yeah, I've seen that many times, Stacy, the fragmentation of lanes, and I've experienced it. And I'm trying to actually make sure that I make a lot of my clients and team aware of that. But you actually mentioned two roles, right? The integrator and the visionary. Are there other roles we just need to be aware of when we look at scaling businesses?
Well, inside of an organization, there's core functions, right? So every business has somebody who is the thought leader, like the visionary, someone who is more operationally minded, like the integrator. But inside of a business, you have sales and marketing, you have operations, which is your fulfillment, you have tech, and you have legal, accounting, finance, cash flow management. Every business has those core functions. And when you're starting off, you don't have to have it all together. What you do is you get to that first hurdle. You get to that first ceiling. So you get to the 6-figure mark, then you get to the 7-figure mark, then you get to the 8-figure mark, and you're continually adapting, right? So the technology that you needed at 6 figures is not the technology you're going to need at 8 figures. The team that you needed at 6 figures isn't the team you're going to need at 8 figures. And so your job as a leadership team in whatever seat you're sitting in is to get really good at pushing to that next ceiling, hitting it, and then adjusting, adapting, making sure that you have your cash aligned, your tech aligned, and your trained team aligned. And those things are critical to scaling.
So before going into how we go about doing this, I would love to ask you about one question, what discussion we had around your mother's and your mother's diagnosis and how that shaped your professional life, as well as your personal life, I guess.
Yeah. So you're talking about when my mother was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And so she was diagnosed, and that's when I really realized the importance of organizing to scale your business before there's a crisis. Oftentimes, entrepreneurs say, I'll do whatever it takes. Whatever it takes to build my business, I will do it. And I often tell them, whatever it takes might look different than what you think it looks like. And sometimes we wait until there's a crisis, whether it's a health diagnosis, of a family member or ourselves, or a financial crisis, or something happens, and we wait for that moment to do some things inside of our business that would even help it now. So my mother's diagnosis was really eye-opening in the sense that it brought a lot of awareness to the importance of restoring dinner tables.
Mm-hmm.
Often as entrepreneurs, we work a lot. We work 16, 18-hour days, 7 days a week. We're constantly thinking about our business, planning our next 5 moves with our business, biting off more than we can chew and then chewing it. We're very committed to that. And that sometimes the people that suffer or are also paying a price for that are the people that we love and care about. And when my mother got her diagnosis, it brought a lot more awareness to her expiration date, right? We all have an expiration date, but when you get a diagnosis like that, it's like it could be sooner than you thought it was. And therefore, it put a lot of a sense of urgency to operationalize things, to hire and train people, to make sure that I had time freedom, not just geographic freedom and financial freedom, that I really had time freedom. And thankfully, putting systems in place, hiring the right people, measuring the right metrics, holding people accountable to the right needle movers allowed me to spend the last 18 months of my mom's life with her before she passed away. And it reshuffled my priorities. Like we build businesses so that they can create freedom for us. But what happens is so many people get trapped in the very thing designed to create their freedom. And I think this happens because either one, our passion consumes us. We're so excited about what we do that we can't say no. So we say yes, 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 yes to all the opportunities, and we sacrifice our freedom. Or we lack systems. We're drowning in operational chaos. Our business looks like our kitchen junk drawer. We're constantly feeling behind the 8 ball. We have so many mental tabs open that we're just draining our battery and we're not present with our family or the people that we love. And so I'm a huge advocate of organizing to scale businesses in a way that truly creates freedom, time freedom, financial freedom, and geographic freedom. But that's only our, what I call our eyes open freedoms, our external freedoms. But sometimes people also sacrifice their internal freedoms like joy, love, peace, connection, belonging to scale their businesses. And I think that that's a bigger sacrifice to gain all of these things and then still feel trapped internally. And so it's important, I have found, to not attach my identity to my business because my business is not me. My business is something that I do. So I watch a lot of entrepreneurs do this where when their business is doing well, they're doing well. When their team is doing well, they're doing well. When they have high revenue, then they're doing well. But if any of that changes, they're not well. And I'm an advocate for building your business from clear identity. So if I can go into identity, I'd love to talk about innate identity versus market identity. So we have two different.
I think those are a very important topic, Staci, because I personally identify with, as I mentioned to you before, authenticity in identity. And the reason why I just want to pause you for a second is because I think we just need to talk about the stories about being combined with one identity. I think you have experienced it yourself. I've experienced it. When I built acceleration program, my identity became combined with the accelerators I built. My brand was the acceleration programs. And today, when people ask me, what do you do, Sabine? I'm really confused about all the things that I'm not going to attach myself to one single business. I can't because I've gone through the other side. And so I just want to do portfolio because then my identity is Sabine, and Sabine is supporting a lot of other businesses. Can you talk about yours and why this is very important to actually disassociate authenticity from an entity viewpoint and businesses?
Yeah, you bring up a really good point about really having your own identity as Staci or Sabine. We have our own identity, and the way we can express that is in different ways. So I've had multiple businesses over the years, and I've been able to express myself in Organized to Scale. I was able to express myself in Unstoppable Me. I was able to express myself in my investments, and I've been able to do that in multiple ways. And it's not who I am. And for me, that separation has allowed me to lean into those businesses and lean into those investments, lean into those things that I'm curious about, but from a place where I am clear about who I am and I have innate value. So whether that is successful or not successful, it doesn't rock my core. The core of who I am is secure, and I could choose to play in a sandbox of real estate or tech or operations or systems or writing a book or any of these things. And if they are successful or they're not successful, it was just a sandbox I was playing in. And then I still get to come back home to the core of who I am. And the other thing that I've recognized too in myself is that the market is very fickle. One day it likes one thing and another day it likes something else. And so that's our market value. And so if the market decides to not adopt certain business I'm offering or a book I'm offering or something of that nature, it's not a reflection of who I am. It's a reflection of a transaction that isn't welcome in the market right now. And that's okay. And
Yeah.
so then I have to readjust and decide to do something different if I want to go back in and play in that sandbox and have adoption in the marketplace.
I think let's just pause on this statement around adoption because, as you said, the word adoption is a very important word because if we were going to define what adoption means, is that when you look at technology and you mentioned books, It could be so many different things when you look at adoption. It is a time that takes people to actually appreciate that something is going to become market relevant. And it always has a time scale. There's a loop as to when people think, yeah, I actually need to pay attention to this. And that happened with generative AI right now, because generative AI moved from being a technology to becoming business level usage, but more than that, they democratized to the point that you and I, while we are doing a recipe in our kitchen, we actually can use this technology. And sorry about this metaphor, because I think everybody cooks. Hopefully, everybody needs to feed themselves. So therefore, everybody can understand that finally we have a technology which is adoptable to a point that everybody in the world could have generative AI, whether they use their mobile phone, whether they go on the iPad, whether they're actually going into Google. Some agents will help them get the information they need. So that is called global adoption. So when we start looking at the work we do with entrepreneurs, with scale-ups, startups, big companies, what are some of the most common operational hurdles you see in those organizations? And what do they face every single day that you're trying to alleviate?
That's a good question. So oftentimes I think I could summarize it just in one word: bottlenecks. There's just bottlenecks that take place. All that really building a business is taking an idea, turning it into a reality. And we have a scope and sequence of doing that. And we have handoffs like a relay race. So there's a baton that starts when marketing, that goes to sales, that goes to operations, and there's tracking that has to happen throughout that whole process. When the handoffs are not clear and there's bottlenecks in terms of poor communication, lack of structure, lack of systems, lack of clear accountability, then it creates backups in our business operations and our workflows. And oftentimes those bottlenecks can be something that's just structural. It could be something that is cultural. It could also be something that is interpersonal, where someone is a bottleneck, but they don't even know that they're a bottleneck, and they're not willing to sit in the awareness of exploring it. Because when building businesses, it's people. People are doing the work. Even if they're using technology, people are getting the technology set up, they're managing the technology. So we're just dealing with people. We're dealing with ideas and people. And what happens in ideas and people, we see this all over the world. I mean, we're seeing it right now in society. It creates some friction sometimes, and the friction then can create bottlenecks. And then we have to be able to have conversations around, hey, this isn't working, but it's not personal. This isn't working. Let's look at this objectively and see how we can improve our communication, our workflow, our accountability, our processes, our documentation, so that we can make this flow smoother, so we can all achieve and win what we want to win, which is drive revenue, scale up the business, create operational efficiencies, and improve our gross profit.
Yeah. So, I mean, you talk about the chaos, right? So how do we streamline chaos actually and streamline all this stuff?
Yes, that's such a good question too, because chaos is a part of business. Business is messy. And I think if we go in with the idea that it's going to be perfect and clean and well put together and our I's dotted, T's crossed all the time, that's delusional. So there is just an element of chaos that goes with business. So I want to put that on the table
Yeah.
first. We operate in a three-step process to get businesses operationalized and organized and to minimize the chaos. And once you have your business up and running, and say you're doing multi seven figures and you're wanting to operationalize it a little bit more, we do a architect phase. So the architect phase is where you're really saying, what are we building? Who are we building it for? What do we want it to do for us? And what are the key needle movers to make that happen? And we process map the whole business. And we do this over and over because as you scale, you're continually improving your processes and upgrading your infrastructure. So that's the architect phase. And that is strategic planning. It's idea phase. You're not really getting into anything tactical at this phase. You're just constructing it like you would a building, like real estate, right? So if you're going to build something from the ground up, you're going to go get an architect and you're going to create a blueprint. Then you're going to go to step 2, which is build. That's where you're going to lay your foundation. You're going to make sure that you put your walls up, that you paint, that you put your finishings in, that you put furniture in, all of that. That's the build phase. And then step 3 is operate. And that's where you plug people in to pull the day-to-day lever. So in real estate, that could be a property manager, tenants, landscaping, house cleaners, all of that. And in business, it's your individual contributors, it's your team leaders, it's your managers, that they are going to run the playbooks. But you are a part of the architect and build phase so that you are making sure that what's happening on a day-to-day level is reflective of the big picture and that it is methodically distributed down through the organization to the individual. And then we have a 90-day cadence that we do where you're continually looking at it. You're running 90-day game plans. And then you're coming back and saying, okay, what worked? What didn't work? Do we have the right people in the right seats? Are we hitting our metrics or not? Why or why not? What do we need to set the priorities are to do that? And then you just do that every 90 days. And it creates a really simple framework to get things done through people that is measured so that the vision is accountable or the people are accountable to the vision and the culture creates that environment of execution.
So you talked about quite a few important words just now, Staci: people, vision, accountability. So I understand your views is technology is just an enabler, and I believe that as well. And we are in the world of generative AI. Everybody's AI, well, I don't know whether it's a high freedom, but it's definitely AI in a mode. So how can we make sure that as we build our business, still people, process, and culture still remain at the core of it all?
I think that has a lot to do with a calendar system. We have a saying at Organized to Scale that if it's not on the calendar, it doesn't exist. And obviously there's so many things that exist outside of a calendar, but when we're talking about business operations and we're culture and communication and accountability, we create a calendar system. So every year you have your annual strategic planning. You're getting yourself in a room and you're committing to that time as sacred to have these conversations, to create these visions, to make sure that the people are aligned. And then you're creating your 3 to 5 priorities for your 90-day cycle. Then you're running your 90-day cycle with your weekly team meetings, your leadership meetings with your metrics, your accountability, and you're reviewing it. If a business gets chaotic, more chaotic than is manageable when we don't make commitments to standards. And so having a commitment to standards and being disciplined to follow through with it, that's what creates the ongoing accountability, the culture, the clarity of vision. If it's really unrealistic, just like with eating right and working out, right? If you don't eat right and work out, you're not going to have the body you want.
Yeah.
Period. And you could do magic pill stuff and all of that, but it wouldn't be authentic. And I think you and I really care about authenticity.
And this.
So the same is true with the business. If you want to have an organized business, then be organized. If you want to have a culture of accountability, be accountable. If you want to have open and honest communication, be open and honest in your communication. If you want to have, we call them pink elephant conversations. If you want to have hard conversations with grace, have hard conversations with grace with yourself. And we can't expect inside of our organization things to last for the long term in a sustainable way when we're not doing it. You could say all the right things, but people watch what you do. And so what you do carries way more weight than what you're saying. And so create a culture of accountability and discipline within yourself, and it will transcend throughout your organization.
Can you provide an example? as to how you've done that for some of your clients. I'm sure a lot of people will be curious to understand how that works.
Having hard conversations.
Having God conversations or
Okay.
people process and the whole, how you organize to scale program.
Yeah. So we just did a 3-day with a client, a CPA firm that's doing multi seven figures, I think 45 or 50 employees and multiple locations. And what we come in and do is we initiate it with a 3-day. So day one is vision building, day two is process mapping, and day three is action planning. And so when we come in on day one, we're saying, okay, what's the vision? Where are you guys going? Where you see yourself in 3, 5, 10 years? And what do you want the ride to be like? What do you want it to feel like? Do you want everyone to be white knuckling it? Or do you guys want to be sitting on the edge of your seat with excitement and enthusiasm? Like, what do you want the ride to be like? And what does it look like? And who are you bringing with you? And what are you selling? And all of that. So we get crystal clear on that. And our values drive that. And so we talk about values on the vision building day. So that's on day one, and we get really clear. And all of that is creating the standard. This is where we're going, and this is who we're going to be while we get there. Then day two is process mapping. And day two is saying, what are the 7 to 10 core functions inside of your organization that are going to make all of this happen? So how are you going to market your product? How are you going to sell your product? How are you going to collect payment? How are you going to fulfill? How are you going to hold the team accountable? What metrics are we going to measure? And we get crystal clear on all of that. And we make sure that everybody sitting in the seats gets it, wants it, and has the capacity to do it. And then day three is action planning. And we say, okay, in order for us to hit this vision and be who we need to be and make things happen, what are the 3 to 5 things we must get done in the next 90 days? And so everybody as the leadership team agrees these are the 3 to 5 things we have to get done over the next 90 days. And we prioritize them and we assign them. So people are owners of it. And then they agree to meet every single week at the same day, at the same time, to discuss the 90-day executions. And what happens is a visionary, since we started the top of this call with a visionary, let's circle back to that. The visionary is going to have so many ideas. They're going to, in that 90-day period, they're going to be like, but this opportunity just came up and we could do this or we could do that. And I tell the team, you tell the visionary you love the idea. It's amazing. You're so excited. You can't wait to execute on it. And that's not one of our 3 to 5 priorities in this 90-day cycle. So I'm going to add it to our future priorities. And every 90 days, when we look at what we're going to make a priority for the next 90 days, we'll talk about it. And then the visionary inevitably says, which just happened 2 days ago, the visionary says, but what if it's really important and I need to do it? Like it has to happen in this 90 days. I said, well, then your team says this to you. They say, oh, it's such a great idea. Which of the 3 to 5 priorities we have right now do you want me to remove so that we can make this one a priority? And so there is conversation, there's nuance, and it's playful because visionaries are supposed to have 20 ideas. They're supposed to. I want the visionary doing that. And the operations team and the integrator is supposed to keep things focused. And so they have to have this healthy tension between each other to be able to say, visionary, keep being visionary, and integrator, keep being integrator. And let's have this healthy tension that's going to make us all rise.
That's super cool. That's super cool because it's about creating balance, but also accepting the ideation process, which is so important in life cycles, which are shrunk, right? Once upon a time, we could do, I would say, 3, 5, 10-year strategy. I think strategy has shrunk to 1 to 3 years right now. I talk to a lot of my corporate clients and they are going through the next level of 3-year strategy, and they have to have the ability to adapt that strategy. So building the ability to change things if the market is changing, like we are going to find out next week. I know this discussion may not come out just next week, but I would say as we'll find out next week as the election comes out, to keep it clear. And so it is very important for any organizations and people to actually have this gamification. You talked about gamification, making everybody happy, um, rewarded for their thoughts, but also feeling that their contribution is absolutely critical to make the business grow. So what advice do you have for entrepreneurs? Because, entrepreneurs often are, idea generators, and then they need to have their chief operating officers, which are keeping things in the lane. So what would be your recommendation for businesses which are struggling to scale?
I think you can't organize and scale your business unless you organize and scale yourself.
Cool.
So if you're struggling to scale, look inside. Spend some time. The best, I'm a big journaler. I've been journaling since 1993. My grandmother gave me my first journal, and I have every single one since then. And again, organizing to scale businesses is taking ideas and turning them into reality. That's all it is. And so as a visionary, you're the idea person. And so you have to organize your thoughts. And otherwise, you're just shooting from the hip and you're yanking the chain of your team around and you're zigzagging and you're feeling like you're not getting traction.
Mm-hmm.
So journal. And usually what's happening is you're focusing on too many things or you're focusing on the wrong things. And a question that can help get that clarity, and it's inverse, but it has helped me so much, is what am I avoiding? When you answer that question,
What am I avoiding? It's a great question. I'm just thinking, what am I avoiding? I'm also thinking about what you are saying, Staci. What am I avoiding?
Yes, and then once when you're radically honest with yourself, and you come up with one thing or two things or three things or four things or five things, what it is, and then what can I do? What are five things I can do to move this forward? And it could be scratch the whole thing, shut down the business, get a business partner. It could be throw that product or service offering out, reinvent it. It could be get technology in place. It could be make a key hire. It could be something. And then that day, go action it. Action something. I'm a big advocate of community. So making sure that you have somebody, especially as a visionary or a leader, get a coach, get a business coach, get a strategy coach, get somebody who can hold you accountable. Because when you are at the top of your organization, you often don't have people who you are accountable to. And self-accountability, I think we've all learned, is insufficient at times because we can't see our own blind spots. It's not is inadequate. It's not because you're not doing a good job. It's because we literally have struggled to have a 360 view of ourselves. And so having accountability partners, that a coach, a business coach, can help you see things that you're not seeing and help you get the clarity inside of your own thinking so that then you can go action it inside of your organization. Again, idea into reality. So the more you organize and scale yourself, the more you'll be able to organize and scale your business.
But what does that mean from a psychological shift, right? Many founders, I think, it's just not founders, entrepreneurs. I think executives of large companies as well, who have been doing the job for a long time. And, in corporation, you tend to be really siloed around the roles you do until you just reach the C-level suite and still as a CEO, you have your own strengths, right? And then you delegate everything else you're actually not that strong at doing. So when you actually think about the psychological shift to do what you actually explained, Staci, what does it mean in terms of, business growth, personal achievements? You actually mentioned at the beginning of our discussion, financial time freedom, among others.
So is the question when someone makes the psychological shift from it's all external to, hey, there's something inside of me that needs to shift, what happens?
Correct.
In my experience, what happens is that you start empowering people around you. When the leader is unorganized in their thinking, the people around them feel unsure what the target is, what success looks like, and A players want to know what the target is, what success looks like, and how to hit it. And when we're zigzagging as leaders and having multiple priorities or not following through, we are creating that inside of our organization. So when we start organizing to scale ourselves, what we do is we create a culture of accountability, authenticity, and discipline in our own psychology.
Yeah.
And when we do it inside of our own psychology, what we do is we empower other people to do the same thing. And when you have 5, 6, 10 strong leaders around you that are managing 5, 6, 10 strong people around them, then you're having that ripple effect of such high accountability and structure, and you're modeling not this is how you build a business, or this is what you do in business. These are the tactics. You're saying this is how you are supposed to be around this dinner table. This is how you're supposed to be around this boardroom. I have leaders say to me that their team is coming to them constantly saying, I need training, we need more training. And that's very common when you're scaling, is your team is going to say, I need more training. And oftentimes you're like, we have checklists, we have standard operating procedures, we have Loom videos, it's there. What they're actually saying to you is, I don't know how to be a good teammate around this boardroom. Even though I know what to do, I don't know who I'm supposed to be when I'm doing it. And that's the responsibility of the visionary, because they're the culture champion.
Yeah.
And that's how organizing to scale yourself has that ripple effect inside of your organization.
So what would be your most important advice and I will just be a bit selfish, actually, Staci. It's not just about the entrepreneurs, the young business owners who are often, disorganized because resources are scarce. And so therefore they are strong in doing something. And then they are trying to understand how they are going to scale their business and therefore recruit the right skill and the right teammates. I would like you to look at that questions around the tips around the small business. But, I work with a lot of scale-ups. I work with investors who actually have a lot of scale-ups and startups, and corporates who are trying to work with them as well. So what can we do as an ecosystem, well-thought leaders, around what can we do together? You talked about community, to help us grow better with the right organized processes, techniques, culture, and teammates.
So I think, in addition to everything that I've already shared, I would say to have fun. I think people make it so serious and they're so afraid of making a mistake, or they so badly want to do it right. There's not a right way. Just go figure out how to get clients, create a product, sell a product, and track it. That's it. And just have fun. You're going to make mistakes. If you're going to run hard, you're going to fall hard. And it's okay. Just get back up and keep going, and surround yourself with people who are going to be optimistic. Because if we could have one trait as a visionary leader, it's optimism. You have to believe in a brighter future, and you have to believe that even when you fall down, you're going to get back up and it's going to be okay. And so have fun. Don't take it too seriously. Surround yourself with people that are playing their way to success and enjoying the journey, because I guarantee you, because it's happened to me and all of my clients, is once you reach the mountaintop that you're currently climbing right now, you're going to get to the top, and then you're going to see that there's other mountains to climb. And because you're a climber, you're going to be like, oh, okay, well, now I want to go climb again. The journey is the climb. That's what makes it fun. So make the climb fun, because once you get to the top, you're going to go choose another mountain to climb again.
So let's make the climb fun and surround ourselves with trusted individuals who want to climb with us as well. So, Staci, if we want to find out about you and how you can help us do things better. Where do we go?
You can go to stacigray.com/book a call to connect with us. And it's stacigray.com, book a call. And I look forward to connecting with you if I can serve you or help you in any way.
And it's very important, right? Tracy with a I and a as well, because people would put a Y and an E. So let's just remember it's with the I and an A. Staci,
Yes.
right?
Staci Gray.
Exactly. And so let's remember, and it's very easy to remember how you can reach out to Staci and also get really a lot of knowledge as to how to get this done, because Staci has done it for a while and she's learned from a parent's business, but also working with a lot of companies around the globe. So Staci, thank you for joining me on Scouting for Growth.
Thank you, Sabine, for having me. And I enjoyed this conversation so much.
Same here. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Scouting for Growth. Please subscribe, share with friends, and leave a 5-star rating. Your rating is so valuable. I review all of them, and my team help me adapt content to meet your needs. Also, connect with me on my preferred channels. I am a B2B growth expert, so you will find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Threads, and X as well as Blue Sky. All information available below. Until next, keep scouting for growth.